Hello and welcome to the first episode of the In the Field podcast, a podcast brought to you by the second year sports journalism students here at USW. Each week, we will have a guest featuring on the podcast discussing the difficulties in the media world. This week, we have got course graduate Freddie Owers. Freddie, how are you doing?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So obviously you graduated from this course last summer. How did you find the sort of 3 years on the sports journalism course?
Really helpful. I learned so much, and I think I've realised that more now since being a graduate and furthering my journalism studies than I maybe did on the course. But the course was really enjoyable. 3 years where I learned a lot and had a lot of great experiences in this building and in industry. So really thankful, and it was sort of the first big step for me in my career as a journalist.
Obviously, upon graduating this course, you decided to do a master's at Cardiff University in broadcast journalism. What was the sort of thought process behind that instead of going into a career or a job?
So initially, when I started my third year, here at USW, I thought that it would be my last year of studying as a journalist, and I would use my connections in the industry here in Cardiff or back at home in Cambridge to find a job. And then during my third year, I went on a placement to Sky Sports, which was organised by USW. And I was in the newsroom in the broadcast environment and made me realise that is exactly what I wanted to do. And while you do study that in your third year here at USW and the TV projects, and you do various radio things as well, I thought that I felt the need I wanted to do more of that as a student before I then did it as a job, to then eventually go and work at somewhere like Sky, because that week was so enjoyable and because I learned so much from that experience. So just out of the will to keep studying it and to deepen my knowledge and technical ability in that field is why I chose to do the broadcast journalism master's. It's the only master's course that I applied for, and it was a case of if I got that one, I would do it, and if not, then I'd use the skills that I already had here to then look for a job. But yeah, I don't regret it at all, and it was the third year here at USW that sort of cemented that for me.
Obviously, broadcast journalism is quite different to being specific in sports journalism. How have you found the change in sort of in that, and what kind of difficulties or enjoyment has it brought you so far?
Yeah, it is very different, in a lot of aspects. The topics that you talk about are obviously very different. Here it was sports all the time, which is my biggest passion, and it making the change from doing sport to then going and doing general journalism, where you have to talk about news, what's going on in politics and the local council, and it broadens the spectrum to basically be anything. So you have to really widen your knowledge, which was and still is something that I'm learning and developing. So my knowledge in Welsh politics and in how the local council works and what's going on around me is something that I didn't think I'd be having to learn this year. But it's a challenge, and I'm still tackling it, and it's going well. But on the other side of things, there are loads of technical abilities that I was able to bring to the table straight away. Stuff that I learned here: how to use software, how to operate in a gallery, how to work in a TV studio, in a radio studio, which I learned here. So while in some aspects of broadcast I was maybe behind other people who had politics, history, English degrees, I was very well equipped in terms of my technical abilities as a journalist, also how to go out and do interviews, how to speak to people face to face. I'd done a lot of here, and I was able to sort of hit the ground running in that regard. So yeah, a lot of learning to do, and a lot of learning's been done this year, but also a lot of things where I felt very well equipped after the 3 years here.
So you say you obviously sports is like your main passion, but doing a kind of a wider scope of journalism now. Do you think that's like really going to help you kind of hone your skills when you go back, if you, as you aim to do, go back into like the sports journalism industry, kind of this year of kind of looking around and kind of, well, just talk about more broader topics? Do you think that will just kind of improve your skills and improve your experience as a journalist?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the industry that I'm around now doing my masters, we're right next door to the BBC, and the connections that they have there are very good, and the sort of things that I am learning about every day is just making me a more knowledgeable person of the the world around me and the landscape of things here in Cardiff. And I think it's important for any journalist to know what's going on outside of their remit, really. So to be forced to do that has made me a more aware person of how the society that I'm going to be working in works. So then when I do eventually specialize my craft again to go and work in sports broadcasting, hopefully, that I will be over equipped to do it. And I think that's just always a very good position to be in. So the course that I'm doing now has got quite a good reputation as well. So choosing to do that will help me going forward. But it will be a combination of that and also the work that sits beneath that in the 3 years here as well. It was just a way to develop on what I've done here. Yeah.
What's been your favourite part of the Masters course so far at Cardiff?
I think my favourite part so far has been really feeling like I think feeling something different to what I have felt here and push myself out of my comfort zone. I think while it was great to come here and do so much sport within my passion, and it was something that I was so gripped by it. It's been quite a rewarding experience to tackle things that I wasn't familiar with, and that's not something that I could have done here because I was focusing on something that I really enjoyed here. And to be able to tackle things outside of my comfort zone on my master's course has been challenging, but really, really rewarding, and it's something that I'll always be very thankful for when I finish my masters and then look to go back into sport. I'm in with a great group as well. A lot of really like-minded people and a lot of people that have changed my views on things in the world, and people that have provided just another outlook on journalism as opposed to the people that I met in sport. And it's just about keeping your community and your web big. So I think that's another thing that I've really enjoyed getting stuck in and involved with for my masters.
You say about like your favorite stuff. Has there been any like challenges, especially going into more again broad broadcasting and journalism? Any challenges you've kind of had to overcome in this masters now?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned politics a few times. Having to deal with being impartial as a journalist is very important, and we all know that. But having to do that and talk about things like politics is a challenge. I think something that you always really want to be very personality driven in your work. You want to make sure that your beliefs and your interests shine through with everything that you do. But sometimes in the journalism world, you have to stifle it, and you have to be really impartial and talk about things from a neutral perspective, which I've had to do a lot more now that it's not just sport related. You're talking about people's lives away from entertainment in politics and in council affairs. So doing that, but trying to not put myself into it as much as any more than just being a reporter has been quite difficult, but it's also something that I understand is very necessary and essential. And so, I see it as a challenge, but one that I take to with full knowledge that it's very important.
Great. And going back to you mentioned you worked at Sky, and that kind of changed everything, changed the course of paths you've gone down now, and obviously doing your masters. Talk to us about that and about the whole sort of week you were there and the things you learned.
Well, interestingly, it wasn't actually just that week. It sort of snowballed into the next few months. I did the week at Sky, and it was very eye-opening in the sense that I know I now want to do broadcast, and this is what I'd like to do as an end game job for the rest of my professional life. But the connections I made there helped me out then with my major project that I went on to do at the end of my third year. I made a really good connection with Andy Thompson at Sky Sports, one of the chief news editors, and he put me in touch with a producer for Simon Thomas who presents Soccer Saturday. And it was a conversation that I had with Julie here at USW, who said, why don't you interview him for your major project about his battle with mental health? Being a sports reporter working in the sports media industry, and it was a really, really powerful conversation. It was definitely one of the best things I did as an undergraduate, and one of the best things I've done as a trainee journalist so far. So, if it wasn't for that 1 week at Sky, I wouldn't have ended up doing that a couple of months later. So, it really shows that the connections that you get while studying to be a journalist and isolated incidents don't just have to be that. You can always draw on them, and it's really important that you use your contacts to your advantage, and you know, don't ever think that something is one isolated incident. It can always lead to something else. As a journalist, you can always keep things ticking, and you can always keep working on your contacts. And I don't know, I think that week in industry really made me realise that how the industry works, and really how I want to be involved with the industry of broadcast and journalism, and it paid off really well for me as a student, and also that connection is gonna stick with me for the rest of my journalism career.
So obviously, you're studying here in Wales of the past 4 years, and you talk about how you're learning Welsh politics and all that sort of stuff. But then journalism and broadcasting is very kind of global skills. You can take them wherever you want to go. So do you kind of feel a connection like to stay in Wales right now? Is that like after you get your masters, do you plan on staying around and kind of working here, or traveling? Obviously, you're from Cambridge, going back to England, or anywhere in the world, really.
Yeah, it's been something that I've constantly gone back and forth on, really, over the last, since I finished it here at USW. To be honest, I originally started to do the masters and stay here for another year, and I think that I do want to stay here for at least another year and see how the landscape treats me with my qualifications, and who I'll know after my broadcast, after my masters, and how it shapes up, what I can throw myself at. So right now, I think that's my plan. I'm not thinking about it further than a year in advance at the moment, just because I'm still focusing on my masters, and still quite young, and there's still a lot to discover, and I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna take things as they come to me. I also do have the connections, as I said, in London, which at some point will definitely become useful, and I think London will happen at some point. But for now, I'm really invested in Wales and Cardiff, and sort of become my home now for 3.5 years, and I don't want to. There's no rush out of it, because I do really enjoy it here.
Do you think enough is spoken about sort of students moving away from home, especially to bigger cities? I'm not saying you suffered from mental health challenges in itself, but I know there's been things written about it where students travel, they go, say, from Cardiff to go and study in Scotland somewhere, and it's quite away from home, not seeing your family often. Do you think enough is said about sort of students moving away from home?
I think it is something that is very common, that maybe isn't spoken about enough. I think it's an interesting challenge, and sometimes it works out very well. I think in my case, it made me 100 times more independent. It made me grow up and become the person that I am now. I don't think that I'd be the same I don't think I'd be as independent, as well equipped to deal with the professional demands that are thrown at me in my masters now, if I hadn't had that independence from the first year at university, living so far away from home. I think for me, I really enjoyed it, but I understand how for some people, that they move very far away from home, and there aren't maybe systems in place at universities or in general to support them. But for me, that decision was a good one. I think Cardiff's a great city. As someone who had sort of outgrown their small hometown and wanted to experience bigger city, but not to go somewhere like Manchester, Birmingham, or London, Cardiff was perfect, because it does have that city feel, and it is bigger, but it also isn't huge. I've made some really good friendships that I've kept after the graduating. So yeah, for me it worked out really well. But yeah, it is a big talking point, and for a lot of people it doesn't work out that well. And but yeah, no, for me, moving here was a really good decision.
What about the reverse of that? And you talk about being more independent and growing up, if you like, and doing journalism is quite a sort of out there. You're doing loads of practical stuff. So what about the positive spin on that then, about moving away, learning about yourself, and doing journalism as part of that? What kind of positive things has that taught you being in Cardiff?
Yeah, I mean, having to be independent from day one, and know that it was a combination of just living by myself, but also studying something that was so initiative focused, means that nothing's going to come to you. And as a journalist, that can be more true as well. You're not going to get the stories that you want. You're not going to get the contributors that you want, the interviews that you want, if you don't go looking for them, and you don't have that intuition and that independence. Just go, right, I'm just going to go and take this by the scruff of the neck and do it. Then you're not going to please your editors, you're not going to please your producers, and you're not going to have you're not going to feel the rewards of what being a journalist can be. So yeah, I guess becoming independent is a life skill that it can never have a negative effect on you. Independence and knowing when to use it, but also knowing when to rely on people as well. I've got a really good support network and a really good relationship with my family back at home as well. Finding the balance and making sure that it all comes together to make you a pleasant person, but also a good professional. It's very important.
I saw you were involved in the making of a documentary for Cambridge United, and obviously there's more to journalism than just reporting news and kind of, well, you see a bit more of a creative aspect of it. Is that something that kind of interested you, just being a bit more creative of what you do and a bit like just different, standing out?
We're talking about the Cambridge United promotion, the advert that I did. Yeah, that was really, really fun, and it's something that initially when I was asked to do, I thought, this is something different. It's not necessarily journalism; it was acting in a way. But part of me deciding to say yes to that was just because that's my club, right? And being asked to be the face of one of the biggest announcements in the club's history was something that I was never going to say no to. But also the connections that it gave me, it led to it helped out in the end of my symposium, my final symposium here at USW. So saying yes to an opportunity that might not have seemed like a journalistic endeavor ended up helping me out again. And it's the same thing that I said earlier about not just taking instances as isolated instances. It can always lead to something else. And once you have the mind for that, it really helps. But yeah, I mean, doing that advert and that campaign for Cambridge United was a bit of a dream come true, and something that, as an isolated instance in and of itself, will sit for me forever. Yeah, definitely.
And lastly, I just want to know, what is your top tip for someone either trying to start media or journalism at uni, or after they finish their course, on what to do? What's their number one top tip that you would say to follow?
I would say everyone that you come across, everyone that you meet, can be of use to you, and as long as you are a respectful person, a nice person to be around, you can build a really, really good network of people. And it's about the person that you are first and foremost, I think, and how you approach your interactions with everybody in day-to-day life. That can benefit you as a journalist. I think my number one tip would be a pleasant person. Yeah, and I think that if you don't have that, then everyone that you come across will negatively impact your ability to get what you want as a journalist. Because obviously you're going out and you want things. You have goals to hit. You'll be given targets by your editors, by your producers, and as long as if you hit that first goal of being pleasant to deal with, I think that will put you 90% of the way there, and then having the ability to execute those targets, to do the interviews, to produce the content. That's part two, really.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Freddie. Thank you for coming in and doing the interview and being part of the first episode. We'll have an episode out next week where we interview someone else on the challenges they face in the media.